Hello everyone, and welcome to QADIR the Masquerade, QADIRs of New York. What? I was a little bit distracted, sorry. Hello, and let's continue. I wish you're late again, by the way. I hope you have a good excuse. QADIR al-Asmai, the mighty sheriff of New York City, is not happy with me. No wonder. I met him in front of the Elysium 30 minutes later than the time we had agreed on. Let me very quickly go to the dictionary, by the way, because the best part of it is that indeed this is all written from the perspective of Julia. So it is a little bit different than the descriptions we've heard in Coteries of New York. So let me get this one straight. An appointed officer who enforces the prince's edicts, and if QADIR is any measure, a real stick in the mud, of course. A sheriff hunts down traitors and violators of the traditions. Only the greatest offenders are typically apprehended and brought back to be judged in front of an assembled court. In lesser cases, sheriffs act as judge, jury, and executioner. I'm not going to make a comment about the stick part in here, I'm just going to go on. Yeah, well, Catherine fucking Weiss decided to arrive. I don't know how to pronounce this. Is it Weiss? Weiss? Yes, Weiss? I'm going to say Weiss, and I hope it's fine. Decided to arrive fashionably late. A likely story. She's supposed to be out of the city. If you think I'm pulling your leg, boss, feel free to check my reports. Pass him all of the official papers the way I do every other night. QADIR stares me down for a good few seconds, then his steely gaze softens. You're serious? Weiss in McDonald's, with the mask and elegant clothes, surrounded by the smell of French fries and hamburger patties. That must have been one hell of a sight. Technically, it was BBB, not McDonald's, but yeah, God, I made such a fool of myself. First thing I did, I quoted somebody calling her a weirdo. I wanted to die on the spot. Serves you right, you walking faux pas. I've been trying to teach you to control your tongue, but you never learn. It's a new gaffe every week with you. I want to make another joke about QADIR teaching someone to control their tongue. Stop. Just get your head straight. Move on. Still, there's good news and bad news. The good news is, Catherine has a fondness for vampires of humble beginnings. Probably why she decided to see you in your, shall we say, natural habitat. I see. That's why she somehow started to like Christoph. Although, you know, Christoph is not the most likable person on the planet. Just putting it out there. She's one of those rich artsy assholes who seek out working class cred. I did say something about watching your tongue. The bad news is, she's very astute, so she can recognize a moron like you straight away. You never stood a chance at impressing her. Oh, shut up. You still need me for anything else? I'll get on it straight away. I wouldn't be standing out here chatting with you if I hadn't taken care of my duties. 30 minutes is all it took to finish preparations for the big party. I'm about to see everyone off. Sorry. Couldn't be helped, I suppose, and it's more your loss than mine. I just wanted some company tonight, and you could really use the chance to appear here on official duties, so everyone can get to know your face. Heaven knows your fast food job isn't going to get you anywhere. You need to, what do they call it? Hassle. Oh, QADIR, trying to be so modern. You don't need to tell me that, but it's not like being paraded around for a bunch of blue-blooded douchebags is. He somehow manages to give me a painful nudge in the back without so much as a hint of visible movement. Language, you fool! They're coming out. Just stand here in silence for 5 minutes and focus on not embarrassing yourself any further, will you? Got it! The first two silhouettes appear in the doorway of the art hall. An old man in a wheelchair, pushed forward by his young servant. I haven't seen either of them before. Mr. Payne, the night is still young. Hope you find the rest of it pleasant. Payne. the wheelchair. I've heard about him. Addison Payne, one of the American Camarilla's main connections to the government and Wall Street. Disabled in quite a few ways, needs a servant to communicate. I'd be full of resentment if I was embraced in this condition, but apparently Payne is nothing but grateful for his immortality. He keeps writing fervent defenses of the traditions and Camarilla customs. Good night, Mr. Payne. Did I screw up? I tried to be nice. He wordlessly shakes QADIR's hand, but doesn't even deign to acknowledge me. It's because I'm La Sombra. At least his servant gives me a small bow. I return it. They leave. QADIR turns to the next person leaving. Hi, Regent. Can't wait to see you in your outfit. Spare me, Sheriff. These fancy dress parties cause me enough suffering without your help. I can only hope you haven't conspired with Helen to embarrass me with this gift. She points to a shrink-wrapped set of clothes she's carrying inside her coat. QADIR smirks briefly. I didn't have to. As you well know, Prince Panhard displays a considerable foresight in the matter of party planning. Yes, if there's one thing she's deathly serious about, it's frivolities. A recognizably mortal quality, especially for a prince. We ought to celebrate it, not oppose it. Don't worry, Sheriff, I'm a big girl who knows her etiquette. I will play your game, amuse the crowd a little bit, and return to my study as fast as possible. Ailing Sturbridge, High Regent of the Chantry of 5 Boroughs, a hero of the Battle of New York, the biggest warlock in town. Could be a prince herself if she didn't have her eyes on the bigger prize. Let me read about those. Regent, the principals at the schoolhouses of the Tremere, also known as Chantries. Every Chantry has a regent who oversees the education of all the Tremere in attendance there. Regents may also hold positions on the Primogen Council and be active in the clan's strategic defenses. And where the Tremere hang out, it's a Chantry. A lots of crusty books and smoking beakers type of place, I imagine. Named after the 8th century hermetic mage whose followers, for a brief period, terrorized the world. I love her! The members of Clan Tremere today are only able to practice their reality-bending thaumaturgic arts after consuming fresh blood. This is because the Tremere of old fucked up in the relentless pursuit of immortality and were condemned. They have recently fallen into great schism of competing houses, all vying for the title of rightful heir to their namesake's legacy. All about that rare ancient artifact life. Nicknames include warlocks, hermetics, or transgressors. I love this little passage in here. It's very much true. The thing is, nobody knows what the prize is. They only know it has something to do with the goal of her thaumaturgical research. Whoever tried to find out what it is, failed. Violently. Oh, I'm sure you're going to have fun. Miss Sovinsky here has just informed me Catherine Weiss is back in town. It is safe to assume she will join our festivities. You're kidding me. It's not safe to assume, it is certain. She told me she will be here tomorrow night. Weiss. Excellent. I love to catch up with her. The barely concealed venom in her voice clearly suggests that, in fact, she'd hate to catch up with her. Yes, it looks like tomorrow night will be very special, but for now, I bid you adieu. And she's gone. Is there some kind of a story between Ailing and Weiss that I should be aware of? You could say that. High Regent Sturbridge once attempted to call for a blood hunt on Weiss. Blood hunt. A punishment sentencing a vampire to final death at the fangs of their peers. The code of the kindred and the system for punishing transgression is the law of retaliation. I am very surprised that Yule hasn't written herself in here that she suspects that she will be one day a victim of a blood hunt, because with her luck, that probably would happen. Whoa, why? I've heard 5 different versions of the story, and all of them seem plausible. Catherine's relationship with the city is odd, to say the least. But hush for now. He's obviously trying to kill the conversation, and the appearance of Thomas Arturo gives him a perfect way out. Mr. Arturo. Ah, la SMI. Keep up the good work, eh? Of course. Thomas Arturo, an architect by trade. He's a herald, a member of Prince Panhardt's inner circle, an eccentric whose thoughts seem to be 10 times faster than his words. A kindred gossip master extraordinaire. That is interesting. I didn't know that there's a version of Harpy that is called Herald. Or maybe it was I always just heard Harpy. You always learn. While Harpy originated as an insult, some have taken the term back and wear it as a badge of pride. After all, who doesn't need a friend who has dirt on everyone? Exactly. We might as well become a Harpy with our skills. Good night, Mr. Arturo. Ah, yes. It disappears into the night. Well, that was brief. Maybe I should stand in their way. That might force them to properly acknowledge my existence. You severely underestimate their dedication to ignoring whelps like you. Not much different than the archaic human usage. Whelp is how you refer to your kid when they're fucking up. QADIR loves to use it to put me down from time to time. I mean, I wouldn't mind. Okay, sorry. I need to stop the first. Can you guys just telepathically smack me like this every single time I go thirsty for QADIR, because we need to continue this somehow, and that's probably the way. Telepathy. And just in case you're serious, I beg of you, don't. I've been meaning to ask you this for a while now, but never had the opportunity. You really hate Arturo's guts, don't you? He carefully measures his diplomatic response. I have no strong feelings about Thomas Arturo whatsoever. Yeah, well, considering you're always listing positives about every local Camarilla representative under the moon, you might as well have called him a cunt. Language whelp. And as for Arturo, I will share my opinion about him as soon as I come up with one that sticks for more than a week. A group of kindred emerges from the art hall, rushing towards the street. Only a noble-looking woman stops next to us. She's wearing a hijab, but curiously enough, doesn't hide her hair beneath it. Primogen? If you were rude enough to stare, you'd quickly notice the cloth serves mostly to cover up her horrifying scars. QADIR? Oh, and young Julia. I'm doing my best not to stare because Samira is one of the few New York City Camarilla figures who hasn't been an asshole to me yet. Still here? Did the prince require the clan of the Huns conceal in some matter? Clan of the Huns. Banu Haqim, called Assamites in the past, but that's basically a slur at this point, are a new addition to the Camarilla, only having joined a few years ago. Before that, they were independent from both the Cam and the Anarchs, and they were used as assassins for hire. Supposed to be very good at the job too. I mean, that is true. They are their disciplines are basically made and crafted to assassinate people. So yeah. Nowadays, it looks to me like they've rebranded themselves as keepers of the law, which still gives them the occasional chance to hunt somebody down, but no longer for payment in blood, as used to be the tradition, or at least not overtly. The one member of the clan that I know well, Samira, is pretty cagey about this aspect of the Banu Haqim, but I've learned from a few other sources that members of the clan have a bit of a drinking problem. Once they taste another kindred's blood, they find it very hard to stop. Their inclusion in the Camarilla seems to have stirred some discontent among the Tremere, as the lawmen also use a form of blood sorcery to boost their abilities and observe different rituals. Some of them clearly religiously motivated, owed in no small part to the fact that the clan has been traditionally tied to Islam and the Middle East in general. I mean, traditionally, but it is not that much of a case nowadays. It's very much, a clan in which vampires of any origins or background can be in. And as much as it might be also called the clan of faith, it doesn't have to be Islamic faith per se. If you want to learn a little bit more about Banu Haqim, I've made a video about them, so I think it explains it pretty well. Hope so. Yes, I advised her that no matter how hard she tries, she shouldn't expect me to wear a different costume tomorrow night. She's the Banu Haqim primogen. Just like the La Sombra, their clan was independent from the Camarilla until relatively recently. However, they negotiated a better deal than we did. They have a primogen, for one. Well, they weren't so bad per se, so maybe that's why. Hailing from the Middle East, the Banu Haqim are drawn to the practice of justice. The rules must be upheld, and every transgression punished. They absolutely fit the Camarilla. They don't have much say in New York City, but the prince often seeks their judgment. It's just good PR. I trust she was understanding. Those are beautiful clothes. Thank you so much. I'm eager to see the outfit you came up with. And how are you, Yulia? Have you seen any lights at the end of the tunnel? Same old, Samira. Still wandering in the dark, bumping my shin every 2 steps. Sorry to hear that. I trust you're pestering the prince and your superiors to improve your standing. It's a process. Oh, Yulia. You won't achieve anything if you don't keep reaching for it. QADIR, weren't you supposed to teach her the ropes? I'm trying to, Primogen, but with this child, it's always a process. I can only wish you good luck then. Good night, Yulia. Good night, QADIR. I love how she looks like she's beautiful. Good night. Have a safe trip. The art hall has to be almost empty by now. You like her, don't you? Stop with your class clown act, whelp. It only serves to reveal deep insecurities. Wow, that's harsh. It's factual. Were I as harsh as you claim? She did tell us both to call her Samira, but you're still keeping your distance with that primogen shit. What's your profanity? Oh my god, I love this thing. What's your profanity? And don't you project your fantasies onto me. I won't give you a lesson about the professional boundaries, but I suspect the way you will eventually learn it will be extremely unpleasant. Why is he so creepy? I am afraid of his face. Am I interrupting something, good folks? Even though I'm constantly pestering him, QADIR's composure is unshaken. His response comes swift and unfazed. Not at all, Mr. van der Weyden. Heading back to your office? You know me, my dear sheriff. Where else would I go? Now that's curious. Even though Carter van der Weyden is a primogen as well, Malkavian to be precise, I don't hear QADIR address him as such. The Clan of the Moon has earned its reputation as a place for total psychopaths. Yet there is a twisted kind of reason to the madness of the children of Malkav. Their condition seems to stem from gazing too deeply into the web of connections that govern the world, from learning too much, seeing too much, feeling too much. Blood is how they self-medicate. All Malkavians suffer a mental breakdown following their embrace. Often this is an exacerbation, I hope that's right, of a disorder or disorders that are already present, but sometimes it is entirely new. Best described as unstable. There's no telling when a Malkavian will snap or drop some unexpectedly wise insight. Called oracles, jesters, or visionaries if you're being nice. Madmen, liabilities, and lunatics if you're not. I really like this approach to Clan Malkavian, which puts them the embrace in the light of after, like, you were just, perceived as kind of normal in your regular life. All of us, we do have our little weird things, our little, things that make us different from others, things that we find embarrassing about ourselves, things that if we ever did them in public, they're cringy or, whatever. Like, everyone has some kind of a thing that makes us different from the others. And to think that being embraced into Clan Malkavian amplifies these things is just super interesting to me. Like, imagine what kind of a Malkavian would you be if your personal traits would amplify to the level of madness after embrace. I think it's a super interesting take on how to craft Malkavians, and it also enables you to empathize with them a little bit more and make them a little bit more believable as characters. Hope to see you tomorrow night. Oh, I will absolutely show up, provided I can. But just in case, I already apologized for not making it to the prince. Simply drowning in work these days. The rhythms, tempo, and intonation patterns of his voice are so familiar. Half of it sounds like JFK, the other half exactly like Barack Obama. Just like his appearance, it all feels so fake. His old money, of course, comes from a long line of Dutch merchants who originally settled in the New York region, runs a wildly successful law office, rubs elbows with allies of both kindred and kind varieties alike. And kind is a derogatory way for vampires to refer to mortals, comes from kindred and kind. Just remember that kind rhymes with swine, and you'll get the picture. He seems perfect in every way, and that's why he's so unnerving. He's a child of Malkav and must be blighted with some affliction, but whatever it is, he doesn't let it show. Hard not to wonder what he's hiding. Oh my god, another concept of Malkav I love. The Malkavians that seem totally normal, but there's something off, like some uncanny valley going in there. Perfect. The celebrations are planned to last all week. Surely you will find the time. I pray I will, my good man. I pray I will. In case you need to reach me, you know where to find me. Have a good one. It doesn't even register my presence before leaving. Sometimes I think they're all still hoping I will simply go away. As Carter drives away in his limousine, QADIR shakes his head. You wanted to hear about which member of New York City's Camarilla I dislike the most? Mm-hmm. He shoots me a knowing glance and smirks. Too bad. They're all my dear colleagues, and I deeply respect every single one of them. Sure you do. Wouldn't want to blurt out something that could lock you out of Mr. Van der Weyden's legal services, would you? You ask, Issa. I do expect to find myself in need of a good defense attorney when my broke, incompetent, and full-mouthed assistant finally pushes me over the edge. Rude. Do you still need me here? I still need to swing by St. Patrick's tonight. Don't worry, we're almost done. The prince is coming out. The captain is the last person to leave the ship, huh? And there she is. Helene Panhard, the big kahuna, as someone I once knew would call her. The de facto ruler of New York City and the self-professed patron of the arts. QADIR, a penny for your fuds? You should be pleased to hear the High Regent is resigned to her fate, my prince. Mr. Van der Weyden is decidedly not. I suspect he will be too busy to join the festivities all the week through. Excellent. She turns to me. Miss Savinsky, weren't you supposed to accompany our good sheriff in his duties tonight? There was an unexpected change of plans. Catherine Weiss is back in the city. Catherine is here. Well, that's a welcome surprise. But what does it have to do with you, Miss Savinsky? She said she didn't want to trouble you with all the paperwork. Oh my god, this piano is so lovely, isn't it? My inner Toreador is waking up and just like, nice. She said she didn't want to trouble you with all the paperwork regarding her arrival. Prince Panhard, it's all been taken care of. QADIR has already been informed of everything. That's certainly a nice gesture, but wait a minute now. Where exactly did you meet her? In a fast food restaurant, my prince. I see. Helene wraps her eyes. Catherine and her love for proletarian amusement. I suppose it will be a source of amusing anecdotes this week. If you want to avoid these situations in the future, it might be a good time to discuss offering Miss Savinsky an office of her own. We'll get to it eventually. There are more pressing matters at hand. The festivities start tomorrow, and there's still so much to be done. Will you make sure the art hall is secure before leaving? Certainly, my prince. Have a good night. Good night, QADIR. Good night, Miss Savinsky. We'll talk about your work soon, don't worry. Of course. Good night, Prince Panhard. A chauffeur escorts her to a limo. There's an awkward silence between me and QADIR until the car disappears around the corner. I feel like this little little time that Prince Panhard is like giving us in between now and the potential discussion of the new office might as well be decades. We'll see. More pressing matters, huh? A penny for your thoughts, Sheriff? I'm certain an image of a keeper of the Elysium stuck in a fast food restaurant will linger in Prince Panhard's mind. You're far closer to your goal than you were a few minutes ago. I'm pretty sure I've heard you say something to that effect a few times now. And I stand by my words. Rome wasn't built in a day, Julia. As a Camarilla loyalist, don't you think it sucks that the Ivory Tower is so hell-bent on showing disrespect to my clan, they're actually willing to make fools of themselves in the process? We've all had to endure our own hazing rituals, but yes, the current situation is not ideal. Whatever, you need a hand closing up the Elysium? I'll manage. It's getting late. Better run. Some shadow in Chicago is probably impatient to get a copy of the reports you've given me. You've pleased one master, now it's time to please the other. We're working for Chicago as well? Mr. Kevin, was that his name? Yeah, here's the thing about working for two masters. Neither of them really thinks of you as their own. Not knowing how to reply, QADIR shrugs. I wave to him goodbye and head for the subway. I like the little like unsubordinate students vibe that they have with QADIR. When I reach St. Patrick's Cathedral, I'm greeted by a voice that grates on me like teeth on tinfoil. Well, 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 the prodigal daughter returns. Oh my god, no. This is the one thing I didn't want to happen. Julia, please, thou shalt not take the name of thy Lord, thy God, in vain. Where's Father Leonard? His clergy duties kept him from getting here on time. He sent me to apologize in his name and keep you company for a few minutes. That's the second thing he ought to apologize for. He just wants his flock to live in unity. I am more than willing to oblige him, why won't you? I don't remember what voice I've given him back in the previous playthrough, so if it's different, I'm super sorry. For the last time, I'm not a part of this flock. We have a purely professional arrangement. I know you see it that way. The Knight clan's tendency to stick close to the Catholic Church is their greatest virtue, but they still consider this relationship purely instrumental. This is why we need kindred like you to bring the spiritual change to your clan, to make them understand God's precious gifts. The closer they get to the light, the greater their shadows would become. That's a very nice way to put it, by the way. I love it. But your t-shirt, I think it's a little bit too much. I'm not really sure if... yeah. Again, with his unsufferable sermonizing. Benoit Segal here is a local nutjob and an ex-artist, a degenerate who had some sort of complete mental breakdown in the 90s. To recover, he took to religion for solace and guidance. The most artistic of the kindred, the Toreador drew their ranks from the creative class, ranging from painters to digital content creators, but also archaeologists, scientists, writers, so literally anyone that can either create something beautiful or appreciate something that they consider beautiful, which is very much of a varied thing. It doesn't have to be art per se. It doesn't have to be beautiful in the sense of the regular, normie. It can be, for example, seeing the beauty in schemes, in code, in social relationships, in history. There's a lot of ways of seeing beauty, and Clan Toreador is not exactly tied to one. The Clan of Rose boasts many former famous actors, singers, writers, dancers, and even loaded sex workers. The goal is, of course, only to fill the Toreador clan with the best of the best, but its shallow fixation on youth and beauty has caused many hasty decisions. Probably more one-hit wonders under the roof than they care to admit. Also plenty of unsufferable divas and influencers. QADIR's one of them, but surprisingly he doesn't show many of the regular traits. Maybe other than keeping himself impeccably slick at all times. Of course! Smack. Yeah, that was a telepathic smack that you guys should give me right now. There we go. At first, he proclaimed his readiness to devote the rest of his unlife to studying Nodism. After a few years, though, he changed his mind and joined the Catholic Church instead. The religious beliefs and studies pertaining to the origins of kindred and the myth of Cain, the alleged OG vampire. As luck would have it, his neophyte zeal found a major target in me. When I first met him, I was stupid enough to tell him I was raised Catholic and still identified as such. Somewhat. He immediately pictured me as some sort of a force for change within the Camarilla and set out to put me back on the righteous path. Now he won't stop preaching to me apparently until I become a nun. Remember, the darkest place is directly beneath the candle. You turncoats have this unfortunate predisposition to find salvation right within your grasp, and then lose your way in the shadows. Christ. Once he starts, he just won't stop. I guess it's time to bring out the big guns. By the way, I was meaning to ask, got any news about Sophie Langley? A painful grimace crosses his face, but doesn't linger. Kind of rude to change the subject, you know? Rude? I'm just looking for a topic both sides of this conversation would care about. You know, like any guide on etiquette says you should. Salvation is a topic close to anyone's heart, whether they admit it or not. It's pretty bold of you to assume I still care about Langley. I do not assume. I am certain you do. The second she retires from the public eye, you stop acting like Jesus Iraqania and start acting like Jesus is a king Iraqania. Coincidence? I love her. I never had a Jesus era. Do people really call it that? Here's how it's going to work. Tell me what you know, I'll tell you what they say. And keep in mind, I didn't know she was your sire until a few nights ago. Hell, I haven't even met her. He winces a bit at me saying hell, but lets it go. Sure, I figure you would have prodded that way I figure you would have prodded that wound long ago if you knew. But what do you care, anyway? Better to let you drone on about your tormented past than to let you carry on with your good missionary shtick. Professional curiosity, once a journalist, always a journalist. He scratches his head, then exhales in a sad mockery of a chuckle. Fine then, I'll do my best to make it short. Just like you said, Sophie Langley, every New York kindred's beloved sociality. I cannot speak anymore today. Was my sire. We first met sometime after World War II. I left France right before the Nazis went around the Maginot Line. I struggled to keep my... This is not how I pronounce this. It's Magnot. Just forgive me for my sins today, okay? I struggled to keep my siblings alive with my art. Watched my brother die during the flu epidemic of '43. I was close to losing my mind. That's when she showed up. Said the sheer torment in my works caught her eye. She became my patron, allowed my talents to flourish, and supported me financially. Eventually, she embraced me. As a well-off kindred, my artistic interests started to naturally deviate from what they used to be back when I was a poor mortal upstart. I began to see the world the way her social circle does. And that she couldn't forgive. Instead of being a fun novelty, I became just another part of the malaise surrounding her. She grew distant and then stopped seeing me altogether. That is exactly how Toreadors do it, very often. I've had my share of meltdowns because of this, I won't deny that. I locked myself out of many career opportunities, but it was an important lesson. Don't trust your elders. Vampirism affects them psychologically as well. If they take interest in you, they won't stop until they suck your soul dry and then discard you like a broken toy. Elder, a few centuries of unlife will net you this big kindred milestone. An elder is only considered an elder after outlasting his or her fellow vampires for roughly 200 years. By then, they will have learned the rules of the great metagame of Jihad, the vast hidden war waged for ages between the ancient and dead. Elders are the chess masters, the rest of us are only the pieces, yada yada. It's a little bit of an outdated term, but okay. For the first time since I've known him, Sagal registers to me as something other than Bible-thumping new songs. Is it compassion I feel? Do I find them relatable? How dreadful. It's possible he's strategically trying to elicit sympathy. Maybe he heard about my dramatic exit from Outstar. Or maybe he's just alluding to the way my sire left me here to fend for myself. It is only God who will never lead you astray. This is why I find your act so frustrating, Yulia. You're so close to getting it, but you choose sin instead. There's the Benoit Segal I know. Almost had me fooled. Let's get back on the track. What about Langley's disappearance from the city? Her path was a road to perdition. Wherever she ended up, I doubt she's too happy about it. She had plans for the future of the city, wanted to make it her ultimate artwork. She was always the vain one. And of course, you are completely sure you have nothing to do with her disappearance. Please don't tell me you're getting at what I think you're getting at. Everybody says you've been acting like you're trying to repent for something ever since her vanishing act. And you've got a motive. Of course I'm getting at what you think I'm getting at. Benoit shakes his head. You really have the devil in your heart, Yulia, always testing me. Just asking what everyone's thinking. Are they now? Listen, I'm familiar with a lot of the insults attached to my name in the city. Those aren't exactly compatible with the image of a ruthless killer. Killer, huh? Now that's interesting. I haven't said anything about killing. He scrapes his hands over his forehead and collects himself before responding. Stop picking apart every word I say in this completely unpleasant way. Here's a statement if you really want one, Miss Hercule Poirot. Actually, this is funny how Benoit was the one that was messing with our head when we were the neonate in the fledgling in Coteries of New York. But Yulia is already playing him. I love it. I do believe Sophie, the way I knew her, has met her end. Even if she's still walking this earth, she wouldn't come back here as the same prideful aristocrat. She'd have to undergo a spiritual rebirth. Someone has reminded her of her place. Her former friends talk of her in hushed voices. Even that servant Plato of her servant Plato. Oh, that's me! I am the servant Plato. I mean, not me as Yulia, but me as the Coteries of New York protagonist. Ah, so we went missing. Interesting. No more Camarilla parties? She's done for. Whatever happened to her, I don't know. I swear on Jesus and his sandals, I had nothing to do with it. But yes, I'm still here and she's not. And it's not a reason to gloat, but to be more humble. I received a sign from God telling me to re-examine all the unfortunate ways I still resemble Sophie Langley. And I listened. I rejected the pride I shared with her. I renewed my vows to God, recommitted to preaching his greatness. I mean, this is why we're having this conversation in the first place. Right now, when I think of Langley's influence in my life, I am grateful, because she was a sign that got me here. And if God wills it, maybe one day you'll look at her the same way, Yulia. Mental note. Whenever he circles back to this preachy tone, it's time to intervene. Alright. If it makes you feel any better, I think that the only way a wimp like you could have hurt her was by boring her to death with Bible quotes. Now then, quid pro quo, tit for tat. You were saying people still talk about me. I was curious if... Oh, look who's finally here. Stalling for time worked. Father Leonard rushes in our direction, carrying a folder of documents under his arm. I assume it's the one I came here for. Father Leonard? Christ be praised, Yulia. Yesterday I was told this is how priests greet their parishioners in Eastern Europe. Yeah, I mean, we say niech będzie pochwalony, which means let him be praised. Quite literally, let him be praised, and the answer to that is for the centuries, amen. Yeah, that's like the regular greeting for and from the people who work in the church in here. So even if you are non-believer per se, when it's like a custom that when you are meeting these people, that's the way to say good morning or good afternoon. It's weird, very much rooted in the fact that Poland is very much of a Catholic country. So yeah, it's a nice little note, probably because developers are Polish. Forever and ever, amen. Exactly. Actually, I think we said each other's lines. Never mind. Another long night? Isn't it taking a toll on you? Oh, no need to worry. These days, I sleep a few hours a day, short naps take care of the rest. And there's always work to be done. I apologize for being late. At least I managed to get here before you and Benoit went for each other's throats. Good. I was getting worried. Oh, who do you take me for, Father? He takes you for a total bozo who's about as effective at converting people as a documentary about pedophilia in the Catholic Church. He just to kind of say it out loud. Julia. Ouch! Hear what I have to deal with, Father? But don't worry, we'll make a saint of her yet. Forget saint. For now, I'd settle for an adult in the room. You do remember he's at least 70 years older than I am, right? As far as I'm concerned, growing up has far less to do with age than with the conditions of your formative years. Here. He gives me a folder he was carrying with him, and I pass him the reports I wrote earlier tonight. Among kindred, it is common knowledge that the Catholic Church is one of the La Sombra's greatest assets. Hell, it might even be one of the main reasons the Camarilla is slowly warming up to the clan. We are technologically impaired, and as such, woefully unprepared to face the challenges of communicating in the 21st century. Hard to handle advanced encryption when you can't even unlock a smartphone. This is where the Vatican connections enter the picture. A web of priests scattered all around the world exchange our dispatches between each other, making sure they all reach their destinations in total secrecy. I was told not everyone in the Holy See is friendly to our kind, but the most shrewd and talented usually are. You could say they're like mortal Camarilla, better than any intelligence agency. I mean, of course, it is a bit of a difficult deal, because you have to deal with people who are, friendly to Vatican's La Sombra, but next to them could be someone with true faith, and that's super dangerous, but, well. Remember what happened to John Paul I when he attempted to uncover the workings of the Institute for the Works of Religion? Death after 33 days of papacy, rumors of CIA and Masonic involvement. Not that Father Leonard has anything to do with any of this. For a Catholic priest, he's alright. He'd probably have made me stay a believer a few years longer than I did, had I known him as a teenager. Leonard is intelligent, kind, helpful towards his parishioners, treats his superiors with a healthy dose of skepticism, and is not involved in any sort of political church games. Well, at least not beyond helping me contact my bosses in Chicago every other night or so. He knows about the kindred, and he knows about the Second Inquisition. He opted to avoid the latter in order to keep the former from oppression, because according to him, it's the right thing to do. The philosophy of the war on terror applied to us kindred. Somewhere along the way, some deep state assholes decided the way to handle the existence of vampires was to treat us as terrorists. Yet the agents waging these operations against us often have no idea what the hell is going on, because some interagency collaboration created to hunt us doesn't tell anyone anything unless it's need to know. Among kindred, the term is most often abbreviated to SI, or these fucking assholes. Sorry for the French. I know there's got to be something wrong with him, some selfish motivation maybe, and I haven't nailed it down yet, but it doesn't feel like he's making an effort to hide it, so I'm giving him a pass. By the way, I hope you don't mind, I finally took the liberty of asking how your parents are doing. Thank you, Father, but you shouldn't have. Not a problem. A priest at St. Stanislas Kostka is a good friend. He says your parents started showing up every Sunday again. Front rows. Your father is looking better and better. Is that like in Poland or other in States? It makes me feel nothing, but I still give him a token nod and a grateful smile. Aw, are you so low on humanity already? Thank you, Father Leonard. Now if you... Oh, she said that her father was a psycho, that's why. Now if... What did she say about him? That she was a psychopath, right? That's what she said. I think so, I'm not really sure. Now if you'll excuse me, the sunrise is almost here. Yes, be careful, and God bless you. Amen. Goodbye, Julia. I'll let you off the hook this time, but next time you won't be so lucky, alright? I hate him. Sure, there's one more thing on my never-ending list of events I'm not looking forward to. Guess it's time to call it a night. And I will also call it night in this particular moment. It was a bit of a short introduction or reintroduction to QADIR and Benoit. I kind of really like this little motive in here that I'm smelling, the romance between QADIR and Samira. I think they would fit each other very well, especially as I thought initially that QADIR is of Khan Banu Haqim, and then I was wrong. So hey, that would be really lovely. I will look forward to meeting them again, and in the meantime, don't get lost in the night.